This camera has all the basic tools you need to create great photo, but more importantly, great video. The best part is I've seen this go for as little as $600 used, US, or if you want to buy it brand new, it's only $750. So if you're looking at picking up your first mirrorless camera, or even if you want a B camera for your A7 III or your A7S III, I believe the Sony A6100 is the best value mirrorless camera out there right now. Let's cover some of the reasons why I think this is such a great deal. Now I'm going to focus mostly on video for this video, but for photo, this is a 24 megapixel camera, and of course it does shoot in RAW too. You get 4K 24 frames a second, so you can get a nice crispy video, and if you attach an Animus Ninja 5, an external recorder, you can actually shoot in 4K 422. You get your 120 frames per second and your 60 frames per second 1080p video. So that means you can shoot those slow-mo sequences or that B-roll, whatever you want to shoot in slow-mo, you can do it with this camera. Unlimited recording time. My A7 III can't even do that. When it hits 29 minutes and 59 seconds, it just stops that video and you have to manually press it to record again. With this, you can continuously record till you run out of battery or run out of memory card space. The camera does of course have a built-in microphone, but you don't want to use that because you have a mic jack on the side there. So you can plug in a microphone and get much better audio. You have a flip screen. It goes up like that, which means you can vlog with it. And the cold shoe is actually right here, but as you can see, if you put it in a small rig cage like this one, it offsets the cold shoe, so now you can put a mic right here and it doesn't interfere with being able to see yourself if you want to vlog. Now, as well as being able to plug in a microphone, you can of course control your recording levels for your audio on the camera directly, and it does give you a visible indication on the screen there with some meters showing you how hot your audio is, so if it's peaking and you need to turn it down. On the dial, you actually have an MR, which stands for memory recall. Now this is important because it allows the camera to store up to 3 different sets of settings, which you can manually assign. This is good because you can store, for example, on 1, 4K 24 frames a second, on 2, 120 frames per second, 1080p, on 3, 1080 at 24 frames a second. So instead of having to go through and manually change every time, you can just scroll to 1, 2, or 3, and then that way you can pull a set of settings quickly and not have to go through the menus and change all that. That is incredibly useful, and if you're not using that already with your Sony camera, you should be. Like most other Sony cameras, you have customizable buttons, albeit not as many as some other Sony cameras, but you still have 2, a C1 and a C2. Now you can assign these to things, anything you want pretty much within reason. Some things that you can quickly access by using the C1 and C2, you can change it to things like focus mode, focus hold, ISO, white balance, creative style, focus magnifier, peaking, audio settings, clear image zoom, zebras. You can set an alarm to wake you up in the morning. You can't do that one, but it allows me to go into a little segue of today's sponsor, which is a good way to wake up in the morning with Morning Brew. Now we're all guilty of this, myself included. You know how it is, you wake up first thing in the morning, you grab your coffee and your phone and you just aimlessly scroll. And I don't think we're gonna be able to change that habit anytime soon. But if you are gonna scroll, you may as well make use of that time. Morning Brew is a daily newsletter that runs from Monday to Saturday. It doesn't cost you anything. I've been using it the past 6 weeks or so and it's actually really useful. I don't watch news on TV, I don't read news online. It's very mundane, it's very boring, but sometimes it is actually good to know what is going on in the world. Just found out that Amazon bought 11 planes. JP Morgan just said that Bitcoin could reach $146,000 a coin, having also recently said that it was pretty much a fraud. I put $30 into Bitcoin like 5 years ago, and I really wish I put in quite a bit more. It's doing very well. But yeah, Morning Brew has been getting me up to speed on my news daily. It's normally less than a 5-minute read. Also written in a way that keeps you engaged. It's witty and it's informative, so it's not boring. So instead of scrolling first thing in the morning and just looking at pictures of other people's food, maybe try Morning Brew. If you're interested in business, finance, tech, any of those things, it gives you a little daily digest. It's free, doesn't cost you anything. It takes less than 15 seconds to sign up. There's a link down below if you're interested. Let's get back to the video. So as well as being able to assign the C1 and the C2 button, you can actually reassign the AEL button to pretty much anything you want, as well as the left, down, and the right button on the D-pad, and the center button as well. But you can't change the wheel here, in case you were wondering, which is a shame, but you still have lots of options for changing buttons. And if you can't fit everything that you want to use in those custom buttons, you still have the function menu, and you can manually reassign things in there to quickly access things as and when you need them. I've never personally run into any issues with this overheating, and I've used it a lot. I've used it for shooting these kinds of videos. I've used it for shooting a bunch of different weddings in the summer as a B camera. No issues with overheating with the A6100. Now you do get some pretty useful video making tools as well, things like focus peaking, your histograms, manual focus assist, which is really useful if you're using old manual focus lenses and you need to be able to quickly zoom in to make sure things are tack sharp. You also have clear image zoom, so if you're shooting in 4K and you want to get a little bit more reach, zoom in digitally with pretty much no quality loss, you have clear image zoom. You also have Sony's autofocus, which I'm sure we all know is pretty decent, if not the best one out there. Face detection for shooting videos. You have tap to focus, so if you tap on an object, it will pull focus to that for you, which is pretty useful. You also have object tracking, which means if you change the focus mode to tracking, you tap on an object like a person, they move around, it will constantly keep them in focus. Aside from IAF video autofocus, which makes the eye always in focus, you pretty much have the same video autofocus features you do in like the higher end cameras, like the A7S III. And we get it in a $750 A6100, which is pretty incredible. So this is an APS-C camera, and you can use full frame glass on it, but you wouldn't really want to. APS-C lenses are so cheap for what it is that they do. There's so many different options out there, from Tamron, from Sigma, Sony has their own variety, and in general, they are so much cheaper than full frame. So I actually still have a couple of my APS-C lenses. This is a newer one I'm just currently reviewing. This is a 23mm f1.4 from Viltrox. They also make a 33mm, which is incredible. There's the 30mm Sigma f1.4. These are all cheap lenses. Both of these are under $300 US, and they're ridiculously sharp. Autofocus is great. There's a bunch of different APS-C lenses you can use for the A6100. Another great option you'll see a lot of people talk about is the Sigma 16mm f1.4. It's the equivalent of 24mm on APS-C. So sharp, autofocus is ridiculous. That's probably one of the first lenses you're going to be wanting to pick up. Plus, a lot of these APS-C lenses are f1.4, which means they're going to be really, really good when it comes to shooting in low light, and you're going to get that nice background separation to get your bokeh too. Now, a big thing that draws people away from the A6100 is the fact that it doesn't have picture profiles. If you've been a long-time subscriber to this channel, you know that I do not typically use picture profiles. And if you're just starting out, I don't recommend using picture profiles anyway. There's a easier, better option for you to just kind of get your feet wet into trying different things before you start worrying about picture profiles, and that's to use a creative style. I've done a whole video talking about creative styles before, and I'll link that up there for you. It's a bit dated now, but the same principles still apply. Now, typically I used to use autumn leaves, but more recently I've been using a neutral creative style with the A7S III, which I'm recording on right now, the A7 III as well. This camera actually doesn't even have the neutral one. Now, I think Sony removed it because it is a pretty flat image, and there is a little bit of ability to grade in there. It's like the most similar creative style you'll get to say a log. And if they were to put that in here, it would kind of discredit the A6400, which has neutral and picture profiles, and that costs $150 more. So that's kind of why I didn't think they included it on this. However, if you use the standard creative style on this, you can drop the settings to -1 contrast, -3 saturation, and -1 sharpness, and you get a pretty good image straight out of the camera that has a little bit of gradability in it. In actual fact, let's swap that camera, the A7S III, for this camera, the A6100, so you can see what you think. Like this, which is now with the A6100. How does it compare to the A7S III? I'll let you be the judge. I think it looks pretty good. It's not a picture profile, as I said, it's a creative style with the same settings that I was talking about a second ago. All in all, this is a little monster of a camera for recording video, and there's no reason why you couldn't use this for paid work too. Don't let the price of this camera be the reason you overlook it. The price of this should be the reason that you are looking at this, maybe as your first camera or maybe as a B camera. Now, there are a few negatives that I've come across which I want to tell you about because that's only fair. The biggest one for me is the EVF, and in all honesty, it's just not great. It's just over 1 million dots, which by an EVF standard is very, very low, and it's tiny. When you hold it up to your eye compared to something like the A7 III, it's really, really tiny. It's not comfortable to use, so I don't like the EVF. If you had to use it in a pinch on a sunny day just to check your exposure on something, if you're not using your histogram and the screen is just too bright, then you could, but just know it's not gonna be fun. You do only have the one card slot, which is just in there behind the battery, so you don't have redundancy if the card was to fail. That being said, if you were to use a Ninja 5 with this as well, it'd give you that extra backup solution if you needed it. And then in that same slot, you do of course have the older style Sony batteries, and you will chew through these. Expect to, I mean, for a wedding, like an 8-hour wedding, expect to go through anything from 5 to 8 of these easily. The good news is they're pretty cheap to pick up. A pack of these is like 25 US, I believe, with a charger. They're not expensive. I normally recommend the RAV Power ones. The newer ones I've got here, they're okay. I don't find they last as long, but RAV Power is a pretty good third-party option for you too. And then the final thing is it doesn't have a headphone jack, so you can't monitor your audio as you're recording it, but you do have your on-screen controls there, so you can see if things are peaking. So something to be aware of anyway. So the A6100, definitely a camera that should not be overlooked. Depending on what you need it for, it might be the perfect B camera. If you've just got the one camera, you need a second camera for doing some proper paid work, just to have as a backup or a second angle. Or even if you're looking at getting your feet wet into the world of video, into the world of mirrorless, it's a great starter option as well. All that APS-C glass, all the core video features that you could potentially need, that 4K, that 120. There's a lot in this camera for the price that it costs. Okay, that'll do for now, and thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.